Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're coming in from. Welcome to Lessons in Boosting Attendance for NAB Show Marketers. I'm Michelle Bruno. I'm a writer, blogger, and technology journalist. I write for a number of event industry publications, including the Meeting Professional magazine, and I develop content and content strategies for event industry technology companies at my firm, Bruno Group Signature Services. I also publish Event Tech Brief, which is a newsletter and website on event technology. I have a little bit of housekeeping for you before we get started. Make sure you use the chat function or the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen if you want to ask any questions of our presenters. And at the end of the webinar, we'll put up a survey. We'll share the results with all registrants, and we hope you'll take the time to complete it. So we want to start with a poll. So our first poll question is about where you come from. Which industry segments do you come from? Are you an organizer, a supplier, an agency, a member of the media, or other? Just take a few minutes to respond to the poll question, and we'll have the results up in a couple of seconds. I noticed from the pre-registrants that a lot of you are organizers and colleagues of our presenters today, but could have been a couple of suppliers and agency and media folks that snuck in at the last minute. So it'll be interesting to find out who's actually in our audience today. So whenever we're ready, let's look at the results. Wow. I guess I was even more right than wrong. It looks like 82%, 83% of our audience is organizers. So when Donna and Ashley come on to speak, know that you'll be talking to your colleagues and friends in the industry, and I'm sure they'll be really interested in what you have to say. So let's move on. I want to just kind of set the scene about what we're going to be talking about today. NAB, like many other large show organizers, uses a large range of marketing channels and tactics for their attendee marketing efforts. Some channels and tactics are more effective than others. However, having a diverse marketing stack is needed to reach as many pockets of attendees as possible. Besides traditional and digital marketing, NAB show marketing and attendee experience teams collaborated to position the registration process as an effective channel for attendee acquisition. Using a blend of tactics, the NAB team was successful in increasing buyer attendance from the year before, which, as we know, is no small feat. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about referral marketing and the halo effect. We'll also discuss managing a digital marketing stack to increase attendance. And we'll talk about something really interesting that NAB does, using an e-commerce approach to designing the attendee experience and boosting referrals. So I'd love to introduce our presenters today. First, our presenters will introduce themselves, but I want to first bring on Donna Page, who is Vice President, Convention Marketing at the National Association of Broadcasters. Welcome, Donna. Tell us.
Hi, thank you. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning. I've been with NAB for 9 years. I work primarily on NAB Show every April, and also NAB Show New York, which we just wrapped a week or two ago.
Hi, Ashley. This is Ashley Fisher, and you are the Director, Attendee Experience and Services at NAB. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ashley.
Sure. I've been with NAB for just about 11 years now, and I'm responsible for attendee engagement and experience across all of our shows. mainly NAB show, NAB show New York, and radio show. And that means I have a lot to do with customer service, registration, housing, the mobile app, wayfinding, the list goes on. If it's a customer service, it's pretty much, I oversee it.
Well, thank you and welcome. And I'd like to welcome Heather Holst-Knudsen. She is head of North America with Glean In, who, in case you haven't noticed, is hosting our webinar today.
Hi there. Good morning, everybody. As Michelle said, I am the head of North America Glean In, and I have many years in the event industry, with the last 5 or so being focused on the tech side.
Great. So let's kind of get started. We're going to throw up another poll. And the reason we're doing some of these polls is, as I mentioned, we're going to tabulate the results and share them out to everyone after the webinar's over. So I think some of these poll questions will be of interest to everybody that's joined us, especially if you're an organizer. So our next poll question has to do with overall growth metrics. So what is your overall growth KPI for attendee registrations? Are you looking for 0? I hope not, percent. Are you shooting for 1 to 3% of attendee registrations for your event, 4 to 5%, 6 to 8%, or over 8%? And I know we'd all love over 8%. Maybe we'd love 20%. But realistically, what do you think about when you set a KPI for attendee registrations? Let us know. So let's show the results to see where our audience members are at. So, really interesting. The majority are looking for 4 to 5%, and there are those that are shooting for the stars, 8% and above. So it's pretty much a mix of expectations, let's just say. And that'll be interesting to see how, Ashley and Donna, how you look at those numbers too. So let's get into it. Because later on, Donna Page from NAB is going to be talking about referral marketing, we are going to start with Heather to understand what referral marketing is, and hopefully it'll illuminate your understanding of one of the marketing tactics that NAB used and uses for NAB Show. Heather?
Thank you, Michelle. So referral marketing is the activation of invitations from your attendees to qualified peers who they feel also will benefit from, from attending your show. Incentives are typically used, and the way the invites are disseminated include email, chat platforms, text messaging, in terms that we call one-to-one, one-to-few invites, and then social posts on channels like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. It is very similar to word of mouth, but referral marketing is what I call operationalized, in that you can, word of mouth, as I'm talking about it, I may post that I like this on a social channel, whereas referral marketing is the act of telling other people, I think you should go, whether it is to the network or to a one-to-one, one-to-few, channel approach.
Great. So Heather, you have a concept called the halo effect. I'd like for you to explain that a little bit to our audience.
So the halo effect really talks about the impact that the referral marketing has on not just your show, but your business. Some of the data that we're seeing shows that referred attendees are better customers, right? And actually the people doing the referring plus their invitees have a higher verified rate. So if you have an issue with, pre-reg versus the ratio to on-site, the referral part of this is going to give you a higher output. The second is referred customers tend to be net new. So We're seeing anywhere from 75 to 85% of referred conversions are net new to the business in two forms, either brand new to the database or a 2-year plus lapsed customer. This to me is super important because we all know how one is a new customer offers multiple revenue opportunities, not just the event, but also the cost to find and acquire a new customer is exponentially more than converting your existing database. There are other impacts on that we can get into later, but those are what I see. It's total growth up to your event, its impact on verified, higher lifetime value, and the net new effect. That's the halo effect.
Thank you. So we're going to take yet another poll. This is a quick one though. So our next poll question is acquiring net new registrants a key KPI for you? So obviously getting bodies in the door is important to everyone, but where do you fall on the net new registration, registrants for your events? So yes or no? And we'll give it one more second. And let's see the results. I guess that could be expected. Net new is really important to everybody. So let's move on. In case you didn't know that, Ashley and Donna. So let's move into a part of the webinar that I'm sure most people are really interested in. What does NAB Show do? So Donna, this is for you. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about NAB Show, what kind of attendance you get, what's NAB Show about, who do you attract? Just give us some general background. And then maybe talk about, attendance overall for NAB Show, what you've experienced.
Sure. NAB Show, obviously organized by NAB being the National Association of Broadcasters, where NAB Show is actually a little bit more than just our broadcast community. So the members that come to the show kind of barely scratch the surface of the full audience that we get. So the show is really for everyone in the media, entertainment, and technology industry. So we get a lot of streaming, a lot of people that it's basically everything in the workflow up until the point of content consumption. So the opportunity for us is immense. So that's kind of why we see such a large number of attendees every year. But we have fluctuated in kind of our worst and best years up until now. So every year we're looking for different ways to reach new audiences, and we do just about everything under the sun in email marketing, media partners, social marketing, the referral marketing, you name it, and we're trying everything.
So let's talk specifically about your attendee marketing stack. I wonder if you could just sort of go down the line and give us an overview on each of the tactics that you use in general, how you're using them, how you implement them, just kind of a general rundown. Donna.
Sure. With email is our number one generator for registrations. Can't beat that. One thing that we do with that is we start out our campaigns, we know who people are in the fact that either they've come for one time the year before, they've been with us forever, they've been loyalists, maybe it's been a few years since they've come to other events so they know our brand, but maybe they've not been to our Las Vegas show. And then we also have like a handful of prospects that we have leads acquired from other sources. So we do messaging to them under those umbrellas so that they know that we're speaking to them. That is kind of how we go out of the gate. And then as we get more and more content that we can speak to the show, we do go into storytelling about everything that's going to be at the show that's around esports, and we can market to segments for that. And along that same line, Ashley and I meet 2 to 3 times a week dissecting data. Where are people coming from? Who are we lacking? And we can then turn those email promotions into dedicated to either fill in gaps or look at something that might be trending.
Right.
Media partnerships, we have almost 150 titles that we partner with. Again, they kind of run the full gamut of the different audiences that we're targeting. Like I said, just more than just broadcasting. Website banner ad retargeting, that kind of ties into, we tie that together with some of our direct mail. So if we're dropping a piece in the mail, we will serve up ads and social posts to those same lists. So we're kind of getting that 360 approach. And then referral marketing, the use of the Glean In tool for 19 Vegas was the first time we used it and saw some great results.
Okay. Let's then sort of talk a little bit more about, if you can, performance on, I don't know if you care to rank these or how do you want to approach it, but I think you touched on a little bit the importance of email and some of the other things, but maybe just give us a feeling for how each of these tactics performed.
Sure. And I'll relate it mostly to our first timers because of, this is about that net new, which we're always looking for. Once we get them in the fold, it's much easier to convince them to come back. So in the first timer realm, the number one driver is actually through our exhibit community. So through our guest pass program that allows them to pass along codes to drive attendance, that is number one. But within the top three is the referral program from the Glean In tool that we used in 19. And then right below that was email and social.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I want to get our last poll question in, which is about what everyone else is using. Which of the following attendee marketing tactics are you currently using? Let us know if you're following Donna and Ashley's lead in email and media partnerships, or if you've got some other good thing going. I know that Donna and Ashley, you in the past have used geofencing. So let's see what everyone else has got. And then let's show the results now to see who's using what.
Email.
Yeah, email comes up consistently in pretty much every piece of research. Some people are also using referral marketing. There's a couple geofencers out there. I'm surprised that more people aren't using media partnerships, but
Well, I hate to jump in, Michelle, but we're getting a lot of feedback on the, they can only pick one. So I guess we should have had pick more than one selection.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
Or what people are not using, because that's probably one.
so maybe let's get rid of that poll. I can read some of the comments. So we use multiple.
Mm-hmm.
And we know from SEER research that there are up to 14 different tactics that people use. So anyway, that's something interesting. I wanted to move on to Ashley. Ashley, I know that from talking to you and Donna, you guys have a special relationship between attendee experience and marketing. And when we were sort of building up for this webinar, and we've also done a case study, which everyone that's signed up for the webinar will also be able to read and receive. You explained to me how you work really closely together. We thought it was a really interesting element of marketing an event. So I wanted you to just sort of explain some of the things that you do, and also talk to us about your interest in e-commerce and how it informs some of the things that you're doing. So first talk about the e-commerce aspect. You know, what do you think about, why are you interested in that, where that plays a role in the attendee experience and attendee marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of more just from my own purview and not so much with the interactions that Donna and I have, although Donna does provide a lot of her own insight and input into this as well. So it's not just me, this is very much a team effort. So for me, is when it comes to the e-commerce side of things, what I try to think about is our attendees are just like us. They're everybody. They are using Amazon, Pinterest, all of these different e-commerce web forums and tools on a daily basis. And especially some of the bigger giants like Pinterest and Facebook and all of those, they've kind of started to use a lot of the same features. And what we were seeing is not having features like social login was kind of hurting our attendee experience because our attendees, it's become second nature to them to be able to click a social media icon on a login page and for all of their social media credentials to auto fill in. And when we were not providing that experience to our customers, we were actually making them very frustrated and they were leaving with a poor experience, which is not what we want ever. So for me, when Donna brought Glean In to the table, where she was looking at it from a referral marketing tool, I was looking at it solely as an experience tool, that this was a way for me to provide my attendees an experience that they were kind of longing for, whether they realized it or not. And so, I mean, the screen that you guys can see up right now, you'll see how our login, first how it started when we introduced Glean In with NAB show, which is screenshot on, which is the screenshot on the left. And then how we kind of took it a little bit further and modernized it a little bit more with NAB show New York. If you guys just Googled login image of Pinterest, you will notice that their login page and our NAB show login page almost look identical. We have a few more fields than they do, but I mean, we do serve different functions. So that's kind of where our standpoint is. We just are constantly looking at how we interact with our everyday world and how we can bring those tools and experiences into our registration and
make
into
it,
our event.
Make it comfortable for
Yes.
the user. I mean, this is a B2B event, but I mean, they need to come and have fun. They need to feel like part of a family the whole way through. And I need to drive people to this site, and then Ashley needs to continue them through the journey.
Right. Also, we've said this a lot through this interaction. Donna can do all of the marketing. I mean, she can market through her teeth. If they come to our reg site and it's hard to use, nobody's going to bother. They're just going to leave. Nobody wants to think about registration. They just want to get it over with. It's a form. You know, in some ways, if registration is a memorable experience, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. So what we have up on the screen now, just walk us through this. The way that you laid it out is in you know, which mirrors what you said is if we Google like a Pinterest sign-in screen.
Yeah.
Take from top to bottom.
Our first iteration of this, it was all very new to us, so we were doing the best that we could, and it didn't connect us that we could take two different screens and meld them and become one, which is what you're seeing on the New York one. So for the NAB show one, we really wanted the social to be first and foremost, so we gave you the opportunity to either log in with email or to use the social, which is what you're seeing on NAB show. NAB show New York, we took that a step further and really looked at how it's being done. I keep using Pinterest, I'll just keep using Pinterest as Pinterest. And Pinterest, when you get to their site, if you are not already logged in, it has a first name, last name, or username, password functionality, or start as new and you can continue, or you can use your social to go ahead and log into the system. So this is almost an exact replica of that experience, which is also used on Amazon. I mean, almost everything. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. And I think you said at one point, it's important to just get them to log in some way first, and then you sort of have them captive for
Yeah,
Black and
you
brown
want it
voters?
to be, you don't want them to have to think about what they're doing. It's become second nature. If you go to one of these sites, if you do it today, you don't even think about it. Your mouse just automatically goes to the place where the social is, or it immediately goes to the field for first name, last name. If you have to stop and read, you get very frustrated and confused, and you tend, the fail rate or the,
Incomplete.
yes, it just skyrockets. You're just making a barrier for entry. So we're trying to avoid those as much as possible.
But we
And
do
I
have
know-
a complete
Go-
registration strategy.
We do.
We
And
never
I
leave.
know, Heather, you and I have kind of talked about this in the past too. Getting people to log in, using the social integration is the sort of pathway into the referral marketing experience. And if that's not good, then everything else sort of is a big fat fail.
So we've actually have a lot of clients who don't use social registration, but use Glean In. So I think the big fat fail is actually where and how you are presenting the opportunity to refer and invite your colleagues. One of the things I have found with some event organizers that I work with is that, and Michelle, we're getting some questions in, so if you can look at those while I'm talking about this, that would be great. But is the idea that we just place the Glean In dashboard in at the end and that's it. I think one of the things with NAB Show is what really helped drive home the social referral part, or actually referral, attendee to attendee referrals. They had the social registration available, then they got to the confirmation page, and referring was one of 4 things that was part of their journey. Like, make this show mine by inviting your peers. And then there were post-registration email campaigns, because as we know, you may catch me at the wrong time after I've registered and I would maybe love to refer somebody, but that time wasn't the right one. So let's continue to market post-registration to say, hey, invite your colleagues, and here's who you should invite. So again, it's looking at referral marketing in its entirety, and there are just lots of facets to that.
Great. So we are getting some questions in, and I'll just throw them at you. These are for Ashley and Donna. How does social registration work with auditing data?
I mean, when we do our audits are post-show. So it doesn't really have much of an effect on auditing data.
They still have to fill out, even if they click the social aspect, we still need to collect their email, name, title. It's not just a click and done. There's demographic questions they still have to answer. So no data is lost. It's been seamless.
Yeah, if we're answering the question appropriately.
Yeah. And then if there's a social login from someone who already has a profile on your platform, for example, someone who already typically registers from other events you offer, does it duplicate their record, or does the social link up with their pre-existing profile? I guess that's the whole point of e-commerce, right? Of an e-commerce approach, huh?
Actually,
One day.
Yeah,
that's
a big a dream of mine. We actually don't have a wonderful way of, we don't have a master database of our attendees. So we do copy over the databases just for an alumni grab. So in the case of somebody who's registered for a past event, if they start putting in their information, the database will look for them and see if they're an alumni, if there's like a likely alumni match, and it will pull in their information from a past event. If they're using the social login feature, that trumps the alumni lookup. So it doesn't really give us a duplicate issue. But we would love to be in the situation where we had a master database where they were actually they would create that social at one point, we would have that tagged to their master record forever, and then they would be logging in to NAB shows in general, and we would know all of their information, and they would literally just click and say, yes, I'd like to go to NAB show.
Coming soon.
Yes, coming soon.
Next webinar.
Year or two.
I want to go back. Ashley, we have up on our screen, this is what someone sees once they click through and register, right?
Correct.
The confirmation page.
Yeah, so this is historically our confirmation page, and when Glean In came into play this year, Donna and I took a long, hard look at this page and really asked ourselves, you know, what are we trying to accomplish here?
We should have had a before and after.
Yeah, we should have. In the past, it really was a replication of everything they had just done in Reg. And so the question we asked ourselves is that really necessary? They literally just chose all of this information and we're showing it to them again. If they want it, it's still there as a reference. I don't know if you can see it, but the very first bubble on the far left actually says view confirmation, and you can see it in the pop-up. So we still allow them the ability to review. But given that they just did that, we felt that that was very redundant here. Instead, we're giving them kind of a platform of tools that they can use to help build their own show journey from this point. They've registered, now what's next? So we offer to book your hotel, to create your show planner, and then to invite a colleague. Now that invite a colleague button that's on the far right, it's actually the exact same thing that you see prominently displayed on this page, which is our invite a colleague tool, invite a friend tool. And this we felt was actually the most important thing to both the attendee and to us is, and where we would see the most value is the ability to invite your colleagues. And then we're just giving you access to all those things instead of like shoving a bunch of stuff in your face. It's a much cleaner approach. And we think that this might have had a lot to do with the success of the Glean In tool and the peer-to-peer marketing. Yeah,
so we're getting more questions. And this is an interesting one. What's the price point of NAB attendance? I guess we never mentioned that you were using the referral marketing approach for free expo attendance, handed out a code. So explain that and how the whole pricing comes into your marketing.
So the majority of our event is show floor driven. So the biggest number in our attendance database is our attendee buyer that's coming for the exhibits only. So, and that's always where we want to kind of get them in first. We can work on upsells once we have them in, especially once we know their profile. And again, we start to tell some of the story about what's going on at the show. We can identify through the demographics other things they might be interested in, but I don't know any of that until they're in. So using this tool to pass along a free code was great for us to, you know, get not only more registrations, but a whole lot more information on some of those new people.
So, but you also you put the code elsewhere. You put it in emails, and I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, Donna, but it's not just in referral marketing. You're using this funnel of getting people onto the show floor with this free code to just sort of get them into the system, and then you move them through with other tactics.
Correct.
I will say that with the referral marketing, we do get, from a customer perspective, we get customers a lot who are like, I got this code and I'd like to share it with my colleagues. I don't know why they should just share it with their colleagues. This gives them the permission to do that. We're giving them a code to share with their colleagues. It takes the, you know, this whatever desire to be honest out of it, because we're just giving them the permission to do so.
So another question, we have a lot of departments within our company that need the data from the registration form. How should we make our registration form smaller when all the questions we ask is data that we need? That's an attendee experience question for you, Ashley.
And it's something that we are debating a lot internally ourselves. We struggle a lot with the data that our exhibitors want, that we want to provide to them to give them a good ROI on our event. Also, a lot of that information, we do lead retrieval, and the exhibitors expect some of that demo information to be passed on when they do scans on the show floor. So I don't know that I have a great answer for you, unfortunately, because it's something that we're kind of debating ourselves. Where is that mix of where do we get the information that we need versus like attendees don't want to be answering all this information either, not just departments across the building. I will say we do share our information across the building as well. And one of the things that I would just recommend is that you take a really good look at your opt-in questions and make sure that you are giving attendees the ability to choose how their information is shared. And then based on that, you can just strip out information, data. Even though you're collecting maybe 10 fields, you don't need to be sharing all 10 fields with the rest of the people in your building. and then based on your opt-ins, you can then decide how much or how little information you're sharing with other departments, but with the attendee's permission, of course. I think
I would say too that, you know, we have all these registration questions and these demographics that we want to know, but we also do a post-show survey. So we try not to ask the same questions. So make sure that you're streamlining what you're asking and then the way you're finding it out.
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking into, and again, we're not doing a good job of it, or we're hoping to find a way to do a better job of it, is that we really want to look at ways of obtaining data on information based on behavior, and how do we track that behavior at our event so that we don't need to be asking people upfront. We just go based on what they actually are doing. That's something that we're exploring currently. We just don't have a solution yet identified.
Which is kind of another cool connection between attendee experience and marketing, because once you notice behaviors, that informs your marketing. I want to move on to the next slide. It's a question for Donna. We do have a lot more questions, so we'll go through this last little bit and then we'll turn back to the questions. So Donna, you didn't stop at just moving through the registration process in order to prompt people to do, you know, make more referrals. So tell us what this is, how you used it. What does that mean? Share your code.
Sure. So this isn't a new tactic for us. This is something that we have always done in the past, where we take the current registration list and encourage people to share the code to get, you know, more of this referral marketing going on. But with the Glean In plugin tool, we were able to download the data through the portal, and each registrant had a unique link so we can tie back even how many referrals they brought in. But yeah, this and the finish what you started. So anyone that's been in registration and abandoned, we keep pushing that out probably at least every other week as we're getting toward the end, right before the show, to keep people finishing their reg and bringing their colleagues along.
So let's move on to the actual Q&A slide. But another question we have is, what type of social registration verification rate are you seeing? We are seeing very low returns when using social registration forms. And after you guys answer that, I'd love to turn that to Heather to see if, Heather, you have any benchmarking data through the work that you've done with Glean In organizers that talk about that. So what do you guys are seeing in verification rates? And
so we kind of, our verification rate, we kind of look at holistically. We don't get kind of down into the nitty gritty. And then for the social forms part, we took the code that was used through the referral program as its own. So I don't have the exact data on if they used email marketing, email referral, or social referral. We have not dug that deep.
Right. Also, I would just say that Donna kind of spoke to this earlier, but I think one of the reasons why we don't look that deeply is because once we have a registrant, we just use the same kind of techniques to try to convert to verified attendees. It's the same marketing strategy for all of our registrants. We don't change by segment most of the time.
Right.
And we track data not about if they've registered socially or not. We track if they've been referred, and regardless of how they registered. And our data shows that it's anywhere from a 3 to 7.5% uptick in verified rates, but that's across 700 events worldwide. So to cut that data down, it could be higher, lower, depending. It's a small show, it's a paid show. I think paid shows are going to have way higher verified rates, obviously, because someone is paid versus a free show. So I'd be happy to take that one deeper, you know, offline.
So I've got another question. Do these social login registrations verify at the same rate as your other channels? Donna?
I think that's kind of the same question we just
Yes.
asked.
Okay. What incentives do you provide an attendee to give a referral?
We didn't do any.
Well, you did incentivize the person who's being invited. You did not incentivize the advocate this year.
Right, correct.
Mhm.
But I think what I talk about a lot in terms of incentives is, especially if it's a paid event, is that you need to incentivize both the person advocating because they are opening up their database to you and they're giving you qualified new attendees, as well as incentivize the person who's being invited. So, and there's various ways you can do it through discounts or upgrades, or my favorite, which is a VIP experience. So giving them great perks on site, especially if it's like a big event and there's kind of cogs in the experience that you can eliminate.
Mhm. So can you guys talk a little bit about your pre-reg marketing using the referral marketing tool? Are you promoting it through email only or other channels? So how are you proselytizing referral marketing before the event so they know when they get to it, this is what it is?
So we kind of touched on all the points how we're currently using the referral marketing, and it's through that registration process, and it's all through existing registration. So we don't put anything out socially that promotes the referral code, because that is, people trust each other more so than they trust us.
Mm-hmm. So you don't want that code to go to anyone that wouldn't be a prospect for attendance. I mean,
If I put that code out through our channels, then I'm not getting the correct data to see how that is working on how it's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think to just 100%, but I think there's something here, and that is there is a way to make it known that you have this great program of referring to make the journey theirs. That could be, just to this question, there are ways you can promote a referral program pre-event, especially if you have a exciting incentive program with it, which could get people excited enough to drive earlier registrations with your alumni group. You could also promote a referral program if you have advisory board members or people that are going to register, but like get them thinking about who they're going to invite. You could say, hey, we've got this great program this year. So there are lots of ways you could do pre-registration marketing about a referral program.
Mm-hmm. And
I think too that with some of the pre-written copy that we used through the platform, when you started seeing that same kind of, I'm going to NAB show, join me there, here's the code. Once you kept seeing that, with our hashtag, I think people recognize it as, oh, this must be, a lot of people are doing this. This must be legit.
Mm-hmm. So do you think you would get more referrals by putting the referral marketing piece during the registration process versus having it at the end once they've completed the registration process?
I don't want anyone to be distracted during registration.
Yeah, we don't want anything that's going to take you away, because then you might forget to complete. We've taken any click-aways out of registration. We used to even have like at the bottom, like reference links to our social media and even to our own webpage. We've taken those away. The only thing we do is like pop-ups within the page. To Donna's point, we don't want you to get distracted. We just want you to finish registration, and then you can get distracted after the fact.
And I would imagine that you guys have been at this for a while, so you've tried all kinds of things in all different ways, and you've kind of nailed down the process. I have another interesting question. What about increasing international leads? That's a tough market for us, and we want to expand it. Any successes on international growth? Discount codes aren't really working for us when it comes to international leads.
Yeah, actually this year, we're taking a fresh look at our international approach, because we're right in the same boat with you. It's difficult. It's not getting any easier for some to visit Las Vegas and US. So we've been in the international buyer program through the Department of Commerce. We've seen some success there, not the best success. So with kind of an outside partner, we're taking a fresh look at that, and kind of as things get off the ground, I'm happy to share some of that information, but it is tough.
Okay. That looks like it's about all the questions that we have. Yep. that's it. I want to thank you guys, Heather and Ashley and Donna. It's been an amazing experience, this webinar and working with you on the case study. I want to remind everyone also that we're going to throw up a survey. It's not your typical survey of, did you like this webinar? Because of course you love this webinar with Ashley and Donna. There's some other questions that we're going to share out the results on after the webinar is over. So again, Heather and Donna and Ashley, thank you so much. Stick around for the survey, and we look forward to, you know, when you get that database set up or some other things that you're doing. As you know, we had a lot of registrants for this webinar. I don't know if you know how many we had. We'll share that with you later. More than any that we've ever done, that I've ever been on. So I know there's a lot of interest in what NAB does. You guys are kind of a leader in the market. So we really appreciate you spending time with us today. So that concludes our webinar. We've got contact information on the screen for anybody else that wants to reach out to Donna and Ashley or Heather. And we will see you next time on another webinar. Thanks, Clean In.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.